As mentioned, my 3-year-old niece was able to come with us as well and to drop us off. She saw us from further away and she would scream across the security, and this is when everyone started laughing, like everyone basically who was going through that gate at that moment, through the security at that moment. She would scream like, "Don't be sad, Tina, everything will be alright, you'll be fine." And I'm like, she's 3 years old, and how can a 3-year-old kid be so smart? Welcome to International Love Story, the podcast about intercultural relationships. Today's podcast episode is going to be my very first solo episode. I thought I'm going to give you a brief overview on what I have been up to over the past, let's say, 6 months. I will try to do a deep dive on today's episode, as emotionally the past few months have been quite draining for me, but also for my partners, also for Nacho, who's Argentinian. And as many of you might know, I am living in Buenos Aires at the moment. My partner and I, we moved 4 months ago, and yeah, I would say let's just start right from the beginning. To give you a brief overview for those ones who don't know us yet, we, my husband Nacho, Ignacio, and I, Christina, we are in an intercultural relationship. So my husband is from Argentina and I am from Germany, and we met 2016 on Tinder while I was on solo vacation in Miami. And yeah, we somehow stick together. We stayed in contact, and over approximately 1.5 years, we built a relationship on distance. So we started a long distance relationship. I moved to Miami after we got married in 2017. After 1.5 years in Miami, we moved to Germany, where we bought a transporter actually. So we constructed that one to a camper van, and then we traveled through Europe. Originally, the idea was to travel through Latin America, but this plan didn't work out because of COVID. So Europe was our plan B, and after that we thought we're gonna start a new chapter, but turned out that in total between 2019 and 2024, so the beginning of this year, we sticked around Europe. In Europe, I was able to bond with my 3 siblings. I'm the oldest one. I have 1 sister and 2 brothers. And the interesting part of it is that my youngest brother is 8 years younger than I am. And while we were living in Germany, or while we sticked around, he actually told me that now he feels like he really gets to know me, because also before I moved to Miami, I was always like somewhere else. So I moved out of my parents' house when I was 17. And then I moved to Munich from the north of Germany to the south of Germany. And that was really nice to hear. And also the fact that I was able to bond on a deeper level with my family. Besides this, I do have a younger sister. She has 3 beautiful kids. The oldest one is 3 years old now. And we were there when all of them were born. And my sister and I, we were very close since the beginning. We grew up together. She's just 1 year younger than I am. And we bonded even more over this. So I'm an aunt now, and now I have to be quite careful not to get emotional, because that's a very emotional topic for me. But yeah, I was able to see them growing up more or less. I was able to spend some time with them in Germany. And overall, we were not sure when we're gonna start our new chapter and where this new chapter will head us. But turned out that due to family circumstances, let's phrase it like this, we had to move to Buenos Aires sooner than later, because Nacho is from Buenos Aires, so he's a real porteño. within just a couple of weeks, we sold everything we had in the north of Germany in our very own apartment, packed our things in just 3 big suitcases and 2 carry-ons. And then we stayed at my parents' house for a couple of days before we finally moved to Buenos Aires. So that's basically the short version. And as someone who is so close to her family and who was able to, as mentioned before, really bond with her family, you can imagine that saying goodbye at the airport wasn't easy at all. The goodbye came closer and closer, and out of sudden in February we found ourselves sitting at the airport in Bremen, so the north of Germany as well, and saying goodbye to my family. Luckily, my siblings were able to join. One of my nieces was there as well, the oldest one, so the 3-year-old one. We tried to spend as much time together as possible also at the airport, so we basically entered the gate last minute. And this is where all the emotions really took in and kicked in, so to speak. I do feel like you think that you have time to emotionally prepare for this as well. And it's not like this is something that happens out of sudden. But once you are sitting at the airport and you have to say the final goodbyes, that's definitely a completely different feeling. And that's a feeling you will never forget. I will also never forget the first time. So when moving to Miami, how it was. This time it just felt different because this time I knew that, and that's the emotional part, at least for me, that I had to say my goodbyes to my nieces as well. And that, now that we're here, I will not see them growing up. I will not be able to hang out with. Also, on the long run, Nacho and I were planning to eventually, all goes well, obviously you'll never know, but to have a family ourselves as well. And that's just the whole chapter of leaving your family behind, moving abroad, and eventually you're gonna build your own family. It's just a different feeling. The first time I moved abroad, I was 25. Now I'm 33 years old. So a lot of things happened in between. But going back to the moment at the airport, what really stuck with me is, as mentioned, my 3-year-old niece was able to come with us as well and to drop us off. And I know that she didn't really understand fully what's going to happen, that we're going to get into the plane, that we're going to fly thousands of kilometers away, and that we will not be reachable that easily, at least not visit for quite some time. She definitely realized that there is something going on, that we are all quite emotional. And then when we did the security check, they were still visible and we could still communicate. And they scanned me. I went through the airport. Crew was super friendly, super nice. They told me that everything will be all right. I told them that we're moving now, that we're going to move to Buenos Aires. They were very supportive and super cute overall. And my niece, she saw us from further away and she would scream across the security. And this is when everyone started laughing, like everyone basically who was going through that gate at that moment, through the security at that moment. She would scream like, "Don't be sad, Tina, everything will be all right, you'll be fine." And I'm like, she's 3 years old. And how can a 3-year-old kid be so smart? Obviously, I even cried more, but it was a mix of laughing and crying. So I wasn't sure what to feel in that very moment. And as I'm speaking it out loud now, it's still quite vivid. So I'm still able to get back into that moment because emotionally wise, this is, in my opinion, the most of the emotions I've ever felt at the same time. So We sat down, we didn't see my family anymore. And then we waited for 2 hours until we were able to board the plane. And from there on, my head was basically empty. I didn't think about anything anymore. I didn't feel anything anymore. I just felt that everything I was feeling over the past few weeks and months was just so draining that my brain just shut off. So I was just looking out of the window and I was somewhere else. It's an interesting feeling, definitely. After 23 hours and 2 layovers, we arrived in Buenos Aires. We got picked up at 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m., I think it was, by the family of my husband, so the family of Nacho. They were overall super happy to see us and super excited. We were lucky because just a couple of hours later, 2 hours later, a huge storm hit Buenos Aires. And our plane was one of the last planes that was able to land. We spent the day with Nacho's family. We had a dinner and we drank some wine. And my head was still empty. So I was, don't misunderstand me, I was very, very happy to see Nacho's family and to be reunited with them because they're my family as well, obviously. And we do get along. We have a very good relationship. But head-wise, I was somewhere else. I spaced out. And mixed with being super tired and jet-lagged, obviously, as well. The same day, we also arrived at the apartment where we stayed for approximately 8 weeks. So the first 8 weeks, we rented out an apartment via Airbnb. And yeah, it took some time to really let it sink in, to really realize that we are in Buenos Aires. It feels different to know that you're not only here for a couple of weeks, that this is going to be your home for the next few years, which is amazing to think about because we didn't have that before. We didn't know for quite a long time where we'll see each other on the long run. And now we have a home for a couple of years without interruptions if all goes well and if the political situation and the economic situation is not going to get any worse. But that's another topic. Yeah, but back to the beginning of our time here in Buenos Aires. If you are planning to move abroad or if you've moved abroad yourself as well, you might know that in the beginning when you arrive at your new home, you're filled with excitement. You are eager to explore everything. You feel confident. You feel like I can do that and I'll be super fine. And this is also how I felt. I felt that this is home now. I felt that I know Buenos Aires already because I've been here several times already, also for several weeks in a row. So I thought I know what I get myself into. Only to realize a couple of weeks later, and that's a realization I've made a couple of days ago, that this is not the case and that there's a difference between knowing that you're going to stay somewhere for only a couple of months or years, like it was in Miami. I knew Miami would not be our permanent location. And knowing that you're going to stay here for a couple of years. So you know that you do have to socialize, and I describe myself as an introvert. You know that you have to get out there. You know that you have to build a social network. And this is something I'm currently struggling with, to be honest, because the people I'm meeting at the moment, they are digital nomads. They're here on vacation for a couple of weeks, but they all leave again. So for me right now, it's very difficult to build friendships, and I'm actively working on this. So I drag myself out there. I'm getting out of my comfort zone, and I'm trying everything possible in order to make friends here, but it takes time. And this is something I have to acknowledge, that building a friendship is nothing you do within only a few weeks. There's this. There's also the feeling of, at the moment, and we're here since a little bit longer than 4 months already, of being lost, because it feels like this new chapter is giving me so many opportunities and I have to take them all and I shouldn't miss out on anything. And this feeling can be very overwhelming because obviously you can't be everywhere at the same time. That's impossible. And it's a lot of pressure you're dealing with, really sitting down, prioritizing on a regular basis is something I'm doing at the moment. I'm lucky enough to be self-employed. So I am usually working in the mornings from 7 to approximately 1 p.m. And then I work on my own projects. But really sticking to a plan, making sure that this is aligned with your long-term goal, not really knowing what the long-term goal even is quite challenging for me at the moment. And also besides this, working on all the other projects I have in mind, socializing, learning Spanish, that's another topic I'm struggling with at the moment. And it's a circle because there's no one who's setting me under pressure. It's my own pressure. So I am doing this to me. And I came to the realization a couple of days ago, and I'm still trying to figure out on how to handle this part. My solution is to connect, to communicate what I'm feeling, what I'm going through, and also to ask for help, to seek advice. So this is where I am at the moment personally. And I try to keep you updated on this as well. Nacho and I, as a couple, it's another topic, and I want to be quite transparent. I love him with all my heart, to sound cheesy. But if you think about the fact that we were both quite emotionally drained the past few months, it's just not always easy to have a communication that's on point. It's not always easy to really communicate what you're going through at the moment and how you're feeling if you yourself don't even know what you're going through at the moment. It's my husband's home. We're in Buenos Aires. That doesn't mean that he's not struggling, and he does struggle. There's a sweet phrase which is called reverse culture shock. And this is what he's going through at the moment. He lived in Europe for 5 years. He didn't live in Buenos Aires for a total of 9 years. And a lot of things have changed here. So Buenos Aires and Argentina in general is changing constantly. It's changing daily. It's something I can't even wrap my head around because it's just so different to Germany or to Europe in general. Like the political situation, we have an inflation of more than 250% at the moment. It's just, it's a lot. And what I also realized is that he tries to compare things to how they were back then, 9 years ago, to how they are nowadays. Not really taking into consideration that the whole process of how they do things nowadays might have changed. So it's difficult to get a hang on it. Specific things, for example, when we were looking for apartments, we would ask family and friends first, like, what would be the best way to find an apartment? Easy things like this. We need help from family and friends that are living here since ever and they just know how things are working. And it's definitely interesting. But to get back to the topic, it's very draining for the both of us. So I feel like in many cases, many circumstances, many situations we are in, he doesn't even have an idea on how to handle it. And I barely speak the language, so I wish I could help. But yeah, I'm working on it. And those are things, like funny things that occur. You can laugh it off. But if they add a lot of small things, they definitely change your mood as well. And sometimes you don't even realize it. So what we try to do is having an open communication. If you're following my podcast since a while already, you know that communication is the key. And that's also what we're working on. But we are clashing more often than we used to do before because it's a lot of pressure, a lot of new experiences, great things, but also things where we ask ourselves, like, how do we even handle it? Yeah, I would like to give you one advice when it comes to moving abroad and adjusting to a new country. Don't romanticize it. What I've learned is that so many out there who are moving abroad also have the expectations that they will achieve all their goals in just a matter of time, that they'll be a different person, that all the problems and troubles they have been through in the country where they're living at the moment will be, yeah, pain from me or yesterday's pain, and that they'll be able to escape the system. And listen, now that I'm here, I know how good the system in Germany is. For example, I do appreciate it a lot more. If you're German, you know that we like to complain about a lot of small things as well. I think we will always pick out little things and complain about it. It's just part of our culture. It can be quite annoying as well, but on the other hand, this is how we are. Now that we're here, as mentioned, inflation of 250%. We do have around the corner, like I just have to walk one block from here, and yeah, homeless people that are covering themselves with carton, they don't have a roof over their heads, and it's a different world, and you start appreciating what you had or what you have in your home country much, much more, because obviously you're also comparing. And that's super natural, but don't expect that all your problems will be brushed away once you move abroad, because you will be facing different challenges, and it's up to you on how you tackle it. My way of tackling them is to share them, or at least I try to share a little bit more on social media, trying to build a community of like-minded, especially women, and to have that online support net as well, a network I can turn to if I feel lonely or lost like I am at the moment. But there are also a lot of things that I take with a sense of humor, because I can't change the situation here. I can only make the best out of it with what's possible in my own little bubble, and make sure that everyone around me is safe and is well taken care of. Maybe you have your way of coping with it, so I'm always eager to hear how other expats are handling specific situations. And I would love to hear your story. If you're not following me yet, definitely follow me on social media. On Instagram, it's International Love Story, all written together, on Instagram as well as on TikTok. And always feel free to ask me anything. I am an open book. I will share emotional parts of my experience as well. And what I can offer you is to, reach out to me, to be part of the community. And I think I've mentioned it here already, but I recently, and it's something I'm very proud of, to be honest, I recently founded a WhatsApp group. We are almost 50, so 50 international women. All of them are in intercultural relationships. Some of them moved abroad as well. And we are hanging out monthly. So we do have our virtual meetups and we're supporting each other. That's what I can offer you, to be part of this community. So if you are a woman in an intercultural relationship and or you moved abroad as well, reach out to me. I will also share the link here in the video description as well as in the side notes of the podcast episode. I hope to hear you soon, read from you soon, reach out to me as mentioned. And see you in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, I'm going to publish another podcast episode, this time interviewing another intercultural couple. So stay tuned for that. Bye.